What up, y'all? It's Mikey from Canadariotballs. Now, we're gonna do a couple quick tests today with the 4-gram Riot ball and the 8-gram Riot ball. Now, they're both 6.8 caliber round ball Riot balls made for home defense and less lethal purposes. Now, before we get into everything, there's a couple quick things I wanna go over. Lately online, I've been seeing a lot of companies promote 0.43 caliber mag-fed pistols or rifles for home defense. When I first got into this, I went to my first store and I told them I wanted a paintball marker for home defense. They ended up telling me the best one to get was the Umarex T4E SNW MMP 9 2.0, I think it is. So I ended up getting it. It was actually a pretty penny, and with the 0.43 caliber Riot ball, which is a nylon PVC, it's 1.8 gram to 2.2 gram. I got anywhere from 315 to a max of 330 FPS. Now, those Umarex pistols, you can't just easily change the velocity. I've seen people do it. It is a hell of an ordeal to do. But quickly, let me just show you guys the difference. So there are other markers out there too that shoot the 4.3 caliber. They're great for a paintball. A lot of them, you know, they cock back, they look 1-to-1, and they work awesome. But personally, for less lethal, I would not even put it in any less lethal category. So this is a 4-gram Riot ball, which is a nylon PVC composite, and this is an 8-gram round ball Riot ball. So they're both 6.8 calibers. This is a 6.85. This is a 6.83. Of course, for best results, you want to match up your barrel perfectly with your projectile. Now, this is what I've been seeing a lot. People use these metal 4.3 caliber balls for home defense, and that's a 4.3 caliber round ball Riot ball. So these things, even from a bunch of different companies, I weighted most of them. The heaviest one I got was 2.4 gram. So you guys can see the size, okay? This is the 4 gram, this is the 8 gram, and the heaviest these things come are 2.4 gram. So size-wise, huge difference. Personally, I would not suggest this for home defense. Even if the marker, you know, can get these guys up to 400 FPS, it's just too small, and it does not give you the stopping power that a 6.8 caliber projectile does. Shaped, round, it doesn't matter. Stick to the 6.8 caliber, you guys. I see so many places advertising these 4.3 caliber balls, but they absolutely suck, in my opinion, though. So the test that we're going to be doing today is with the 4-gram Riot ball, the 8-gram Riot ball, and it's going to be a distance of 35-40 feet shooting plywood. Now, we're going to start off with the 8-gram Riot ball first. Now, we're going to be using our trusty FSC. Right now, I chronographed 2 megs of this FSC. It gave us an average, well, I can't really say average. So when because I'm using a 12-gram CO2, which I personally like the most when it comes to home defense, you can get an adapter for the FSC to attach a 10 CI or 13 CI tank. They're great in HPA system. They give you great FPS, consistent FPS, but personally, I do like running CO2. Now with the, if you do end up getting a tank, make sure you get an ASA on-off, just because you don't want to be screwing in that tank every time you need it. The on-offs are great. Just lube it up and it'll work awesome for you. So now when I'm shooting a round of 8 shots from the T8.1 mag, so every 8 shots, so every mag, okay, your CO2 will finish. So don't expect to, you know, put more projectiles inside your mag and then keep shooting, because if you're shooting at a high FPS with the FSC, the 12-gram CO2 is going to be done after every mag. So 8 shots, your CO2 is done. So you can carry 2 mags, pop it in, twist it, engage it, it's ready to go. So the first 2 shots with this FSC, the first shot I was getting anywhere from 405 to 412. The second shot, once again, 405, 412. Sometimes the first or second shot will bounce up to which one's higher. Now, the last shot I was getting around 320, 315. So you can see that from 415 to 315, because it is CO2, it does lose pressure on every single shot. but it was giving me an average 365. My chrono said 370 FPS with the 8-gram Riot ball. So I think that's equivalent to anywhere from what, 45 to 53 joules, which is great stopping power. We're gonna see how well it does with accuracy, grouping, I guess power. We'll see if it can make its way through the plywood. I'm hoping the 8-gram will, especially at the higher FPS setting. Now, I've been shooting this FPS a lot this last 2 days, and one quick tip I would recommend so you don't lead to any problems or leaks. Every time you're done, even better if you could do it every time, but every time you're done, take it apart. It's super simple. It's a screw at the front, a screw in the back, and then one on each side. Take it apart. It'll come apart in 2 pieces. You'll have the top with the trigger housing. Now, in the inside, in the internals, you'll see a bunch of screws that need an Allen key. Just tighten them up, okay? Especially that fill nipple, make sure it's tight. What will happen, especially when you oil it up, these things will become loose at higher FPS. You know, the fill nipple and the screws do become loose, so make sure you keep tightening it up so you don't run into any issues and it runs smoothly. Another thing I've noticed is the trigger will become loose, and it's just one Allen key adjustment. Don't go too hard, just, you know, go quarter turns clockwise. Don't put any extra pressure, but make sure everything's tight and ready to go. Now, when I do lube up the FSC, I do like putting a drop where the velocity port is, and also a drop where the CO2 gets engaged. Now, I am using a 9.5 inch 685 Tiberius. It's a T8.1 barrel, but I'm using it with the FSC. Now you can see I just have a muzzle brake around it, just to protect the barrel. Usually I use a 4-inch muzzle brake, the First Strike one, on top of my 9.5 inch barrel. But yesterday I was running a bunch of tests at a longer distance that you can see on our YouTube channel, Canadariotballs. Now at 65, 75, and 85 feet, what I noticed, the muzzle brake did add FPS. In general, the muzzle brake does add FPS, nothing crazy, but it did affect my accuracy and grouping a lot. So once I got past the 50-foot mark, the 4-inch muzzle brake did affect my accuracy and grouping. It was a lot better when I had just the barrel itself, but there is a lot of pros that it comes to your muzzle brake, especially if you're running a smaller barrel. I don't suggest you use the stock FSC barrel. They're pretty bad, but just make sure you match up your projectile with your barrel bore. So for example, the 4-gram Riot ball, I use a 683 rifle Lapco barrel with the 4-inch muzzle brake, and if I'm using an 8-gram Riot ball, I'm going to use a 686 Lapco rifle barrel with the 4-inch muzzle brake. Now, both those Lapco barrels are 5.12 inches. If you can get a longer barrel, anywhere from 7 to 10 inches, they do give you way better results on accuracy, grouping, velocity, everything. But don't think the longer the barrel, the better. I did test out an 8, I think it was a 9.5 inch, a 12.5 inch, and 16 inch T8.1 barrels. The 12.5 inch gave me the best results. The 16 didn't really give me any positives on top of the 12.5, and the 8.5 did have a little bit less FPS compared to the 12, but the grouping and accuracy were great on it. So if you're using a rifle, even if you're trying to get a compact setup, I would suggest a 12.5 inch barrel. And when it comes to something like a handgun, a pistol, if you can, because these are meg-fed markers at the end of the day, try to get anywhere from 8 to 10 inch. So this one's 9.5. Now we're using a T8.1 meg, which is running a 12-gram CO2. We got the 8-gram round ball Riot balls in here. We're gonna be shooting first. Now, really quickly, for home defense, I've seen lately people put up videos of using a 16-gram CO2. They carve out the T8.1 meg. I'm gonna try that soon and let you guys know what happens. But if you're gonna try to get higher FPS, especially for example like this setup where you're getting 400 FPS on the first 2 shots with the 8-gram Riot ball, it has to be a T8.1 meg, or it has to be an HPA tank. So you can't use the FSC compact mags that hold 6 with the 8-gram CO2, or the extended meg with the 8-gram CO2, because the 8-gram CO2 will not give you the higher FPS that you're looking for. So if you're using a 4-gram Riot ball, for example, and you're trying to just shoot about 320, 330 FPS, then you can use that 8-gram CO2. It'll probably give you a solid 4 or 5 shots, but when it comes to getting high FPS and home defense options, you have to use a 12-gram CO2 or an HPA tank. So we're gonna use this FSC right now with the 8-gram Riot ball, giving us an average of 375 FPS. We're gonna be shooting at plywood at a distance of 35 feet. Now, with these 8-gram Riot balls, unfortunately, a lot of them, when I'm shooting harder targets, have shot back and smoked me. So I'm gonna wear a pair of safety glasses this time. Take the recommendation of a bunch of people on the YouTube channel telling me to wear glasses. So we're gonna start with the FSC and the 8-gram round ball Riot ball. I'm gonna go back to about 35. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start at 35 feet and see what results it gives us. So an average of 375 FPS, first strike FSC, 8-gram round ball Riot ball. Now I've already engaged the CO2, turned it on, projectiles up. Let's see what she does. Okay, so 8 shots, no problem. That CO2, crispy cold. Now there'll always be just a little bit out. You don't have to necessarily shoot it out, you can just take it out. So that CO2 is done. Now, I know you guys can't tell the difference in the video, but when I use the 9.5-inch barrel right now, without the 4-inch muzzle brake that I always use, it is a lot louder. Like a lot louder, but it does give me great accuracy, and let's see the results. So I don't know if you guys can see, so every single shot went right through the plywood, like absolutely no problem. I do apologize, my aim's not the best. That was just under 40 feet. But check this out, you guys. Just ripped right through it. 2, 3, 4. Right through it. Like, absolutely no problem. So, that's absolutely nuts. So that's the 8-gram round ball Riot ball. Okay. Just tore through that plywood, like nicely too. Like you don't see, it didn't hit a bunch of, a same spot a bunch of times, so force its way through. Every single shot, that thing was flying through, absolutely flying. Oh man, that was awesome. So now let's try the 4-gram round ball Riot ball and see the results that it gives us. So quickly, what I am gonna do, I am gonna put on that 4-inch muzzle brake just because it is super loud. Okay, so really quickly, I'm gonna take off this muzzle brake right here. Super easy with an Allen key. So that's our 9.5-inch barrel that I was using. Okay. So I'm going to take off that thread saver. So I always go to the left first, counterclockwise, just to make sure I don't, ruin the thread. You'll hear it click in. So double check everything's in place. So now that's our 9.5 inch barrel with a 4-inch muzzle brake. Now I'm only doing this just so it's not as loud. It was ridiculously loud the last 8 shots. So this time we're going to be using the 4-gram round ball Riot ball. It's this guy here. So it's a nylon PVC composite, 3.6 to 3.8 gram. It's a 683 bore, and because it is a round ball, you can use a 683 barrel, and matching up your projectile with your barrel bore gives you a huge difference in results. So quickly, I'm going to bring down the spring, and I am using the red spring. I would suggest you use the red spring with any projectile, shaped or round. It holds the projectile in place better. You don't have that issue where projectiles fall out of the front of your barrel. I hate when that happens. So I do suggest using the red spring. 1, 2, 8. So 8 projectiles. Now I'm going to use a 12-gram CO2. The way I like doing it is I take the CO2 and I force it all the way up. So I hold it up to make sure it's nice in place. Tighten it, not too tight. Make sure, it's not sticking out awkwardly. Put the mag in. You'll hear it click. Now, I am dominant with my right hand. So whatever hand you are dominant in, hold the marker in your right hand with your left, engage that CO2. You'll hear that bolt go forward. It's tight, nice in place. Now I'm gonna let my projectiles go. So there you go. Got the 4-gram round ball Riot ball in the FSC. Now with the 4-gram round ball Riot ball, it's giving me an average of about 450, 455 FPS. My first 2 shots are just under 500 FPS when I'm using the 4-gram Riot ball and the FSC. So we're gonna go back to just under 40 feet. Now these 4-gram Riot balls do fly a lot further, and they're great when it comes to distance, but I want to see what it does to a hard target. So I'm not really going to be aiming, to be honest with you, just because I don't want it to affect the holes that are already there. 1 second. I'm gonna grab a pen. Okay, I swear I had a marker here. So that was the 8-gram. Let's see what the 4 does. I'm not necessarily gonna aim, but let's see what it does. So FSC, the 4-gram round ball Riot ball, 35 feet, just under 40 feet. Let's see what it does. So that was 8 shots with the 4-gram. Once again, CO2 completely done. icy cold. Get rid of that last bit. So I was back at 40 feet. It is a little hard for me to see, but I think the 4-gram Riot ball went right through it as well. I'm gonna have to double check when I see the footage, but I'm pretty sure it ripped right through it, no problem. I thought, you know, it might be a little harder for the projectile to make it through compared to the 8, but it looks like it just completely went through it as well. I think all of them, all 8 went completely right through it. So that's the back. Man, that's crazy, you guys. This is a paintball gun. Just eating the plywood, no problem. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check the footage to see if all the shots of the 4-gram Riot ball at an average of 455 FPS went through, but these were some great results. Now really quickly, let's see what the T15 does. So let's check this out. So let's try the First Strike T15. This guy's giving us an average of 330 FPS with the 4-gram Riot ball. So you're looking at anywhere from, you know, 19 to 21, max 22 joules depending on your setup. This guy's giving us about 20 to 21 joules right now. So I'll be using the 4-gram Riot ball with that. I'll go back to the same distance, about 40 feet. But let's see what it does, because it does have, you know, a lot less FPS compared to the FSC. Wow, let's just look at that one more time. Look at that, you guys. Clean too. It ate it clean. Not like it just banged it up a bunch of times and forced its way out. It ate it clean. Wow. Okay. So we got another fresh piece right here. Now we'll use the First Strike T15. I'll go back to about 35 feet. But compared to the FSC, where with the 4-gram Riot ball, it's giving us an average of 455. And with the 8-gram Riot ball, it's giving us an average about 375. This First Strike T15, which is only 330 FPS with the 4-gram Riot ball, it usually does do quite a bit of damage on most targets that I do practice on. We'll see what it does, you know, with the plywood compared to the FSC. But I would say the T15 is, you know, in the range of markers like the Milsig, the Tippmann A5. It does hit a little bit harder, but most mag-fed guns, this test right here will show you how, you know, how hard they hit. Because the FSC, you know, except something like an FN303 launcher, the FSC, which is the same thing as the TCP, the Pepperball one, is, in my opinion, the strongest and one of the best mag-fed markers you can get for home defense. So quickly, let's see the results that the T15 give us. So once again, First Strike T15, 330 FPS. We'll go back to 35, 40 feet and see what this does. Okay, that was way better results than I was expecting. I don't even think I need to explain this one right now. Look at that. Look at that, you guys. Oh man. That's 330 FPS at 35 feet. Just ate it. Look at that, there's no more even center. Oh man, that's crazy. As you can see, the projectiles are still looking good. Alrighty, y'all. So there you have it. My two favorite options when it comes to markers and home defense, either with the 4-gram riot ball and the T15, which work best together, or the FSC, which is the ultimate monster, with either the 4 or 8-gram round ball riot ball. Check us out, Canada Riot Balls. Thanks for watching.